The old man curiously opened the trunk, opened the green bag, and asked him to transport 200 kilograms of flour. But at this moment, it helps Sir is an anti-drug police officer. He thought the old man was facing difficulties and then asked what was in the car. The old man explained that he gave walnuts to his granddaughter and picked up a bag of walnuts and placed it on a flour bag. Drug enforcement officers believe in the elderly, but the dogs keep barking. The police think he needs to pee because there are only him and the elderly here. How could there be drugs, while the elderly want to escape? But he suddenly calmed down, quickly picked up the ointment and applied it to his hands, then walked out of the car. When the police dog came over, the old man began to touch his nose, and a strong smell of ointment made the police dog lose its direction. Drug enforcement officers apologize to the elderly and wish him a safe journey. This movie is called Mule and tells the story of a bankrupt elderly man in his 90s who is employed. Not only is he holding a beautiful woman home, but he also goes to various dances all day long. The old man's unrestrained voice suddenly moves people when they see him in the end. It is also a true story adaptation. At the beginning of the story, the old man is a retired veteran who now makes a living by raising flowers. He has not been in contact with his family for many years and occasionally participates in various flower exhibitions. He also has excellent skills in chatting with girls. Just now, this was.
You're on the wrong floor. Third floor is the beauty pageant.
Ha ha ha, the old man won the gold medal at the flower exhibition, and his career flourished. That day was his daughter's wedding, but he was inviting his friends to a bar for a drink. It wasn't that he didn't care, but that he looked at it all. In a twinkling of an eye, 12 years later, the emergence of online shopping made the old man bankrupt, and the bank took the house away, leaving him with only a broken car. At this moment, he remembered that he seemed to still have a family. His granddaughter was getting married, and he was the only one who loved the old man. His daughter had not spoken to him for 12 years, and when he saw him, he turned around and left. My wife knows him very well. When she saw that old car, she knew he wasn't coming to the wedding, but he was homeless. He also promised to pay for his granddaughter's wedding wine, and the elderly left angrily. The boyfriend of the granddaughter bridesmaid chased after him and learned during the conversation that the old man had been to 41 states and had never received a ticket. The young man gave him a business card. If he wants to provide his granddaughter with wedding wine money, he can try it here. They are recruiting experienced old drivers. The old man came to El Paso and went to the tire shop. The people inside were all carrying weapons and were about to cut the old man's car. They had to hide the goods, but the old man stopped working. He used to be a retired veteran and had seen all kinds of driving. Anyway, he couldn't touch his car and asked them to leave the goods behind. A few people agreed. It does local here. Give the elderly person a mobile phone, only allowed to answer calls, not make calls. At the delivery location, the taxi was parked and the key was placed in the car. After leaving for an hour, the reward and key would be inside. That's how the old man worked for the first time. The car stopped at the designated location, and an hour later, the old man returned to the car and opened the glove box. Inside was an envelope that he didn't expect to be so thick. He then opened it and saw that it was shit. Baldy told the old man that if he wants to answer the fire in the future, he should call this number. No. At her granddaughter's wedding, the old man packed all the drinks and had a great time playing. As long as it wasn't awkward, it was only her family who were embarrassed. She sat next to her wife. The old man wanted to redeem the house, but the money was not enough, so he changed to a car first and prepared to do another job. The old man came to the tire shop again and did a great job the previous time. A few people looked at him with admiration and still followed the old man's request. The goods were naturally placed in the trunk and handed him a new phone. Yeah, you know.
I've got this other one from before.
To take the phone with a bald head and directly break it and throw it away. Embarking on the journey again, the old man was very relaxed all the way. He didn't know what the goods were, and occasionally strolled around fruit shops on the way to supplement vitamins. Chatting with motorcycle girls to make your mood more beautiful. The car stopped at its destination and successfully completed a lesson, making a big profit. The old man redeemed the house and also had savings in hand, so he must go out and have a good time. He came to the Veterans Association, but unfortunately, a big fire caused it to stop operating here. He has been here for almost 50 years, and it's like a second home. My old friend said that insurance claims will be slow unless someone has spare money of 25,000 yuan per dollar. Idle is also idle. The old man came to the tire shop again, and they had a pleasant cooperation. However, the old man suddenly realized what was being transported and how high the remuneration could be. So while there was no one around, the old man opened the trunk to check, which was the beginning of the storyline. It turned out to be transporting drugs, but after this trip ended, it earned $60,000. At the same time, due to the influx of a large number of drugs, detectives were sent from New York to work together with local drug enforcement officers to solve this case. They first subdued a drug dealer and made him a police informant. He mentioned the drug delivery process. Those people are called mules. Veterans, the association reopened, and the elderly returned to happy and joyful days. All of this was thanks to the father, who took care of the happiness of his old friends, so he started his 5th trip. He didn't drive all the way to the destination like other mules, but walked and played, sang all the way, and it was time to open the blind box. You don't need to remind me that this is Mexico even if you lose your phone, because my dad is reliable, has no criminal record, never gets a ticket for a lifetime. My dad asked him to do a big job, totaling 110 kilograms, but he needs Little Beard to come with him. Little Beard found his father and requested that he follow his command throughout this trip, follow his route, and not change lanes or park at will. Little Beard put down his harsh words and quietly placed a listening device while loading the goods. Then, he started this big fire, which surprised Little Beard. The old man was very relaxed and sang love songs all the way, and the atmosphere was easily contagious. Little Beard and his companions were not far away and couldn't help but sing. This is the 8th delivery, and on the way, I encountered a young couple with a flat tire. He got off the car to help and didn't forget to humiliate the man. It's really delicious.
They teach you how to change a tire?
No. That's why I'm Googling it.
That's the trouble with this generation.
The old man hated the internet and didn't worry about staying in a hotel. The goods were left in the car, but the old man found 2 girls. Not far away, Little Beard gritted his teeth in anger, feeling that the old man was too inattentive. So, Little Beard stared at it all night. It was a farmer worth millions of dollars. After arriving in a city, Dad still didn't listen to the command and suddenly turned right, changing direction. He was leisurely all the way, while Little Beard was worried and uneasy. Finally, the goods were delivered to the designated location, and Little Beard was furious. He called the boss and said he wanted to kill his father, but he didn't listen to any instructions. He stopped the car all the way and even helped fix the tires. Yesterday, he also stopped to visit an old friend. The boss told him that he had his own way, and as long as the goods were delivered, he was at his disposal. The police learned from an informant that he had obtained a list of drug traffickers transporting a new mule, which was called Dad on the Road. He transported 121 kilograms in April, 172 kilograms in May, and then 232 kilograms. Dad invited the 2 to dinner, and Little Beard asked him why he parked here. Dad told him that it was the best sandwich in the entire Midwest. The reason is so simple. After tasting Little Beard, as he said, Little Beard came out to work, while Dad enjoyed life all the way. Just after leaving the restaurant, the police stopped Little Beard and he wanted to know what the Mexicans were doing in his town. Dad slowly walked over and carefully explained to the police that they worked for him and came to move for them. The 2 young men were serious and responsible, much cheaper than moving companies. Dad called the sheriff to the side, but he actually opened the trunk. Little Beard and his companions were about to take out their guns, and the goods were in the black bag in front of them, while the old man took out 2 barrels of caramel corn. Although the sheriff refused, "Sir,
We do me a great favor. Would. I've got diabetes. I can't have it. They love it down at the station. And the gals upstairs, they'll love it too. Thank you for helping me, sir."
The sheriff couldn't resist the old man's enthusiasm and left at a loss holding 2 buckets of corn under his father's enthusiasm. Day after day, Dad became the dark horse among the mules. He was constrained by his boss and came to Mexico to attend parties. The boss personally arranged services. Without Dad's presence, their business would not have been as smooth as before. After 3 rounds of drinking, the boss found Little Beard and wanted to give him some advice.
I pass.
I think you ought to quit.
Quit what?
Quit this.
What?
Quit here. You could quit, find something you really love to do, and then go after it.
Little Beard returned to his mansion. This is his home. He used to be just a street thug, but it was his boss who took him in and gave him status.
Yeah, it's just an idea.
The drug crackdown continues, capturing one hideout after another, but Dad still acts recklessly. My granddaughter's graduation ceremony from the beauty school was invited by my father, but when my daughter saw her lifting her butt, she changed her seat. Dad leaned against his wife, wearing a gold bracelet in her hand, trying to make up for the past with her family. She silently paid the tuition for her granddaughter, but no one except for her knew that the drug lord was practicing guns. But suddenly the newly promoted right arm betrayed him. The new boss recalls his mustache. As long as he obeys his orders, he won't die. Then I found my father and took him to the deep mountains and wild mountains. The bald head has established a new rule that in the future, it is necessary to depart on time, arrive at the location on time, and not stop without authorization. It must be strictly enforced. They showed Dad Sar's body, which was surrounded by Little Beard and him. No one will follow him in the future. As long as Dad doesn't behave, their eyeliner will kill him. But how could Dad be afraid that he would still smile and start working? The police eavesdropped on the route of the old mule father's movements, and helicopters and patrol cars were deployed. Whenever suspicious vehicles were found, they stopped them for inspection. The old father continued to hum all the way, and now it is the 12th trip. The detective has received reliable news again that Dad will be staying at a hotel tonight. Detective, go ahead immediately. At this moment, a strong man was playing with his phone and smashing the nearby ice maker. The old man complained about the noise and said a few words to him, but the strong man didn't give him a good face. After remote monitoring, women, children, and a 90-year-old father were excluded. They identified the man with a gun on his waist, which should be him.
Is that right there?
Everything all right?
Except I'm trying to avoid some big asshole who's going around here banging his cell phone on the ice machine down there. I don't know what it is with you guys in your generation.
You guys.
Jesus, don't you guys live life or something outside the goddamn phone?
The police came to arrest him, and he even filed a lawsuit. Just a few seconds later, the agent subdued the strong man. He's also a drug addict, but he's not the Dad he's looking for, and Dad looks outside and knows he's catching a drug dealer. At the coffee shop after dawn, the old man and Tanyuan met on a narrow road.
I know a lot about all shits. Is that a missed birthday or what? Anniversary.
Sure enough, Jiang is still old and spicy. They chatted for a while, and the old man reminded the detective, you gotta think
About family. Yeah. This anniversary is important. But you gotta think about it because women love that shit.
He said he missed out on a lot and valued his work more than his family, only to realize now that his family is more important than his work. The old man's emotions benefited the detective greatly, and he suddenly became enlightened and continued on the road. Dad received a call from his granddaughter, and his wife was seriously ill and could be in danger of her life at any time. My granddaughter asked my grandfather to go home quickly, but my father refused. He can't leave now, nor can he explain to my granddaughter. My granddaughter was angry and he kept talking to my grandfather, but today my grandfather let him down. Dad sighed and risked his life to return to the home he had always wanted to go back to. His daughter didn't drive him away because his mother loved him. My spouse is also very surprised, girl.
What do you want? You're not in the will.
Or anything? But his wife was very happy, even though Earl was outside all day, he always loved Earl. At this moment, the drug lord is going crazy. The fire of over 10 million and his father have disappeared together, and the detectives have also been lost. Suddenly, they have lost the clue. At this moment, a drug lord's phone was eavesdropped, and they sounded very angry. They were preparing to find their father and kill him once they found him. Dad takes care of his wife carefully. It's like when they're back in love, she wants to know why Air has so much money.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm hiding.
Giggle. My wife smiled and said, then, to be honest, Air is a drug dealer in a drug trafficking group. There was 305 kilograms of cocaine in the trunk of the car, and the old lady smiled again. You're
never gonna tell me. Whatever you did, you didn't have to get rich for us to want you around.
Dad is very self-blaming. His daughter has finally spoken to him in 12 years, and he admits that he is a bad father and also a bad husband. A week later, the old lady passed away, and all the love of her life was spent together sending this optimistic old man away. After the funeral, the father had to finish his work, but his daughter caught up with him and invited him to celebrate the festival together. He finally received his daughter's forgiveness. Dad was driving on the road, and the drug lord finally found him. Outside a public restroom, 2 people blocked him. Dad was very brave and could handle it with just 2 people. They flipped over to the bald man and reported to the new boss that his wife had passed away, and the group's goods were in good condition. However, these few conversations were also monitored by the police. After all, Dad is the chief. The mule will let him go this time. If he misses again, it will take his life. The police car is positioned, A is set up on the Intercontinental Highway, and helicopters are dispatched to support it. This time, Dad didn't sing, but his face was covered in bloodstains. He remained calm and drove at a constant speed. At the checkpoint in front, Dad slowly slowed down, raised his hands, and restrained himself to capture. The detective was confused, and the duo they found turned out to be their emotional mentor. A 90-year-old man in court, whose lawyer used his advanced age, including the kindness of being exploited by drug traffickers, could have easily exonerated Air, but
Your Honor, guilty.
Earl's father voluntarily pleaded guilty and admitted that he did indeed do it. He apologized to the lawyer, apologized to his loved family. Perhaps he didn't plead guilty for being pregnant with drugs, but for hurting his family. He hurt his family and no one tried him, but this time, he finally completed his late sentence with another crime. But the old man's nature is still free and unrestrained, starting from his old profession in prison and making the dark corners of the prison colorful and diverse. The film was adapted from a true story and played the role of a poison lord for 10 years until being arrested in 2011. The lawyer claimed that he had the Alzheimer's disease virus and was only used by others. He was eventually sentenced to 3 years in prison, but was released early due to health issues after only 1 year of imprisonment until his death in 2016. The prototype is being caught at the age of 87, and the male lead in the story is even more arrogant. Mr. Clint Eastwood directed and starred in this movie when he was 89 years old.